Be prepared and be excited to fail. I think one of the things that we overlook when somebody screws up or fails is like, how do you learn? Usually by failing, usually by screwing up. Like I said, that's how I learned web design. It was you go in, how do I do this? Google. Okay. Is there a video for it? Watch the video. And then you do it. And sometimes you mess up. Sometimes you've had some bad customer interactions where, maybe you weren't completely wrong, but, you messed up a little bit, or like there's something new that you didn't know about, and they get pissed that you didn't know that. And it's again, like I said, there's no open source, streaming saying like, all right, this is what's going on in our industry. This is how you do it. It's like you mess around and find out. And sometimes you're going to fail, and sometimes it's going to be really bad. And how you rebound from that and how you learn from that, I think that really pushes right into that topic of how you expand, how you learn.
Hi, and welcome to another episode. I'm your host, Brian Mattocks, here with the Hard to Market podcast. And today I am joined by the multi-talented and super fantastic Luke Eccles from Red Bearded Marketing. Welcome, Luke.
Thank you. I'll take that title. That's a good title.
Well, it's definitely one that works. One of the things that we were talking about before the show was how challenging it is to market your business. So if you can give our audience just a quick overview of the kind of services you provide and why they're hard to market.
Sure. So as a digital marketer, I feel like don't want to say jack of all trades, but jack of all trades when it comes to digital marketing. And that's kind of because the field I'm in, there's so many all-encompassing parts to your digital marketing. I feel like that's kind of why as a person that is a self-learner, did not go to school for website design or search engine optimization. It was a, screw around and find out type of situation. I would YouTube, Google something, and then I would do it and work on it. And that's kind of how I learned web design. It's kind of how I approached every other service that I do, because they're all kind of hand in hand with web design. So I would say what kind of sets me apart is I do some stuff that's a little bit like on the IT range of what I do, and then I am on the marketing range. So like I feel like the IT is you don't put the IT guy in front of the customer to talk, all the way to, the stuff that the IT guy can't do is like talking to the customer. So I kind of feel like I fill in a lot of different, a lot of different services in digital marketing that a lot of people don't all do. They usually white label. They usually do like 2 or 3 services themselves, and then maybe white label the rest. Whereas I kind of have a really good idea of the big picture of marketing. So
it's interesting because you pointed out that you have this broad range of services, and we've had folks on the show here that offer any one of those as a discrete specialty. So when you market yourself with this more of a generalist kind of take, how are you able to compete kind of in the landscape against folks that are essentially putting themselves out there as like SEO surgeon kind of people?
So you want to tackle all of them, or just SEO, or
Pick your pleasure.
Sure. I think really to nail it all down, it's the time and how long I've been doing it for. I mean, I've been doing social media marketing since before it had the name social media marketing. MySpace. I'm a musician by background, so the MySpace days that they gave you that little HTML widget of your play track, and just like everything else nowadays with Google, it's kind of they release an algorithm or they release something, and then within five months, like every designer has kind of just pounded that concept into the ground with loopholes of how to work around it to get that website up and running. That's kind of how much Google has evolved in the last 20 years, is basically because of that. Carrot is basically people that do what I do, figuring out how to hijack the system in some way. Like at first it was when you had backlinks on your website, it helped your Google ranking. So what did the people do? They started just filling a site with backlinks. And then Google was like, all right, well, we don't want to. So I've been seeing these things happen for 20 years. MySpace did the same thing. You were able to take your music widget and then put it on people's comment sections. I got 200,000 plays, I think it was like in a day, until MySpace chopped that off. So I think what sets me apart from the competition is the fact that I've been doing it as long as you can be doing social media marketing. Um, yeah,
So how does that translate into your sort of marketing strategy for yourself? What does that look like in terms of how it shows up in the online space or the offline space?
sure. I think it really helps me with the offline, like when I'm talking to the client. I feel like I pick up, like for instance, I sat down with a yoga studio 3 weeks ago, and again, she didn't show me really anything on the back end of her Google My Business or her Facebook, but she popped up number one. There are only two yoga studios in Phoenixville, and she was paying for Google ads to pop up number one in Phoenixville. And I just said, you're throwing your money away with this. Like, your website's on the first page, like right at the top. It's right in those first three listings with Google My Business. I said, where are most of your clients coming from? And she said, well, we get a lot from Pottstown and we get a lot from Norristown, surprisingly. I said, I would switch whatever money you're using. I would negate ever pushing in Phoenixville. You already organically pop up, and I would push that money to all the other towns. So people that do website design don't really do ads. They usually hire a guy. So I think that's where, when I'm talking to the client and they have questions about Google My Business over here and then Facebook here and then the website here, and most marketers are like, well, I can only really help you with this part and like right here. Whereas think of it like a spider web. I understand and I handle everything surrounding it. And I think that really plays off with the questions I ask my client. Because when people come to me, they sometimes they have an idea of what they need, or they think they know what they need. Sometimes they're right. Sometimes it's like the inkling of what they should know. But sometimes they think they need A and they actually need F. Like and I think having that diverse background of different services and different parts of the digital marketing field allow me to kind of say, okay, well, yeah, like this is something that maybe we should just do right now really quick, but like SEO is what you really need, or social media. I have an idea, a little bit better of an idea as to what the customer needs, just from seeing so many different backgrounds of marketing, from ads to organic to social to SEO. So I think that's what really sets me apart with the online content that I'll make. But then also I think it really gives me the advantage when I'm talking to that client.
In the sales process, when you are going through that kind of triage and troubleshooting and all that kind of sort of dynamic, that sounds really like a powerful kind of capacity to have at your disposal. Um, when it comes to the marketing space, where that's pre-contact, right? In a lot of cases, it's async. It's in an environment where folks are going to be consuming other content. How do you stand out in that way?
So one of the things I've really always pushed since I started was I would say I'm a unique individual. Um, putting it,
Why, Luke? Why would you say that?
yeah, but I feel like everybody's unique. Everybody has like their little quirks, their little things about their personality, and content is one of those things where when you get really good at doing your content, that personality starts to seep into it, and sometimes it makes it the best content because surrounded by your personality. So I think that's one of the things I've really honed in on and really pushed with my clients is what are you into? What, well, like for instance, I've had clients where they're selling health insurance. Like, how many pieces of content can you make with health insurance that aren't already made by every giant company out there that's being posted every hour? So my question to my client was, well, like, do you have any pets? Oh, you don't have a dog or a cat. Oh, you have a rabbit. How about like we center the content around the rabbit asking the questions? Like it's making the content around yourself and around what you're comfortable with, because not everybody's comfortable with getting in front of a camera. That's one of the things I had to bash into my brain because I helped there was a band a week ago. They played locally, and the week before I played at the same venue, and they were out front as I was coming up to grab the last of my stuff. And the guy's like, "Hey, we're Pink. We're playing here." And I just came up and was just like, and just took over the hype video. And they ended up using it. I didn't even remember doing it until the guy tagged me. I kind of knew who the kid was, like I had seen his face. I didn't know him really. And I'm pretty sure it really helped. It really worked well. It was a good video. I jumped into the shot and I'm yelling like, if you don't come to the show, don't come to town. And they ended it right there. Um so I, it's a little bit of like making the content your own and teaching the client how to do that. That's the tricky part, because and sometimes that's not a right away thing. That's a, like, once they get comfortable with you after who knows how many months, but really trying to drag out from the client what you do, also looking at what other people in your industry do, so you're not creating the same content, the same boring stuff, but really trying to make it shine with that client's personality. Because sometimes, they're not going to get in front of the camera. They're not going to want their face on there. It's gonna be an office cat or a dog. And sometimes you got to find that bit for them so that they can really figure out, okay, like I don't like to be in front of the camera, but my dog's fine with it.
So that whole take and line of inquiry starts to sound really, really compelling. I think for a lot of folks that are in um, the marketing space, right? It's very easy to fall asleep and do the traditional stuff. But in the
Mhm.
content creation game, the novelty and the personality start to really become a kind of a vital part or a component. When you're talking to folks about helping them find their voice, I imagine a common, piece of resistance you might come up against is things like, "Yeah, I don't know that. I think that'll lose me more clients than it'll gain me," or "What if I have a overly strong personality?" or whatever. How do you help folks kind of get over some of those sort of cognitive emotional hurdles?
Sure. Well, if there's something I've definitely learned, um, with people that like I've been chatting with somebody that does what I do recently. I met her at a networking event, and a lot of times, as you saw with BNI in the past, people get very territorial and they're like, "That guy does what I do. Can't let him talk here. Like I don't want to talk to him. Like keep him out. He's the enemy." And yeah, that might go with your industry or your job, but I couldn't tell you how many times I learned something from somebody that does what I do. Like, for instance, Brian, you were in MySpace, of what I do when you were a BNI director, and some of the best conversations I had about my industry was with you. Was, "Hey, what are you doing with this?" And you would be like, "Well, what are you doing with it?" And that back and because there's no live stream every day of what Google's doing and what Facebook is doing. It's
Right.
it's you F around and find out.
Yeah, yeah. So I think a big part of like the collaborative approach I think is great, but helping people find their voice sounds like a really distinct kind of vibe.
Mhm.
And uh, you know, is there a case where that can go awry? Is there a case that you've kind of done that with somebody and all of a sudden they're oversharing or sharing the wrong stuff?
Not not with me, but I've seen people that follow myself or take my approach and like start doing it, and they overdo it. And again, it goes right back to like, are you being authentic? That's been the thing I pushed since I started. Are you making authentic content to your authenticity, to your personality, or is it forced and a dialed in box that somebody gave you to throw So yeah, I've definitely I haven't had any clients where it's gone wrong that I've seen. Like you don't always have clients for, but I feel like I would see, if it went awry, but I've definitely heard of people going overboard, with their
Yeah.
with social media posts, maybe getting political, or like stuff like I've definitely seen that. That's easy to see nowadays. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I have seen folks, do, and, like, stuff you never ever would contemplate would work. Like, stuff that you're just like, "There's no way that A, they got away with that, B, they spent the money to do that."
right.
But there was an HVAC company nearby us that was doing puppets for a while, and then you're like, What the heck is going on here? How is it that we're in a situation where an HVAC company is using puppets?" We had a couple other examples, like the mascot kind of vibe.
Hmm.
You and I are both kind of located outside of Philly, and Gritty, the mascot, for example, which was just like when it first came out, the instant revulsion, and then the kind of like gradual acceptance, like, oh, actually, that is kind of our vibe. Uh,
That is Billy. That guy that looks like the monster from Sesame Street. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like, kinda strung out, Philly Fanatic, right? Or Cookie Monster, right? Like, what are we gonna do with that?" Oh, that is kind of us. So, when you kinda lean into this stuff, though, there's in many ways, so long as the intent, I guess, is correct, it's almost impossible to kinda do it wrong so long as you're aligned, kind of a personality perspective. I worry that now that we live in this sort of digital native environment where folks just grow up online,
Yeah.
in like broadcasting everything, there's going to be and with AI coming out, there's going to be a signal to noise problem, right? So how do you kind of cut through that? You get this rapidly escalating kind of standoff about who can create more and more extreme or more and more off the wall marketing stuff
Right.
for their business. Like, how do you gonna kind of work against all of that in the context of helping some of these smaller folks?
So one of the things, my dad's a business coach. My dad's a doctor by background. He owned restaurants. He's a real estate investor. And for the last like 2 years, he's like, "You gotta learn AI. You gotta learn AI. Don't AI, Luke. AI. What you're doing, you gotta learn AI." And I'm like, "Where? Like, you just keep saying AI." Um, but I have been playing around with a lot of AI. I've bought some programs that are part of my services that envelop with AI. They work with AI, but I think it goes right back to, even if you have AI is a tool. Like, it's not when it takes over. We aren't going to have any more discussions about it. It's like there's the doomsday AI stuff that may or may not happen, but it still comes down to that that idea that I had of making authentic content. And now you're using AI. So now it's like, cool, we just opened up the sky on this now. And playing with AI myself, it's still very limited. It's not like we're able to be like, all right, make the scene and do this. And like, even if you're paying for a program, it's still very limited. So it goes right back to the concept of, all right, well, now we have AI. Well, like, cool. Now we have a tool to make whatever content we want. Now you already have the basic concept of let's make it authentic. Let's make it surrounding your principles, your business, your vibe. But now we have AI. It's another tool to build on. That's how I look at it. That's how I use it for my clients. Not that I'm really using AI for any creativity stuff right now for clients. I'm sure 2 months from now that'll be different. But um,
How do you
I
how
think
do you
it's still the same principle. It's just a we were playing with a gun before. Now we're playing with a nuclear, a nuclear bomb.
right.
AI it's insane what we're going to be able to do.
So apart from the capacity side though, it's also flooding the sort of marketplace of ideas with content. And then
Yep.
differentiation's harder and harder because again, just the volume of signal out there, the volume of noise to signal is so much higher. How do you anticipate that's going to impact, your line of work?
I feel like it's going to make the fact that I have so many years of experience with this even more important because I'm seeing online a lot right now, like younger kids that are I'm 43. So I'm in that generation of I'm like right at that gap of like guys that are like a year or two older than me don't really know how to work Facebook. Like it's kind of like I'm right at that
I'm not going to take
cutoff.
offense to that, but
I
I will
not at
actually.
all. My dad knows how to do all this stuff, but I watched
Okay.
him typing 15 years ago. It was like one, two, like he's improved substantially, but not. It wasn't an accident that he improved.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, and that's kind of the same thing with AI. It's like, look, you can become the dinosaur. You can become the grandpa that does. I don't like any of this stuff. You can, or you can really dive into it and because I guarantee I think I covered this on the first episode of Red Beard Talks when I had Brandon on it. We were talking about AI and he was just like, anything you can learn about AI in your industry, do it. And I concur. It's people that are looking at it as like a negative thing. Like you can take that approach, but you're just gonna get steamrolled and everybody's like the people that learn how to use it for their industry are gonna exceed. They're gonna way beyond everybody else that's not.
Yeah, yeah.
So if your industry is using AI, learn it. It's it's 2 years from now. This is gonna kind of be like the conversation like you remember in 2014 when like the older guys were like, yeah, I don't do that email stuff. I don't do that internet stuff. Where are they now?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
It's like the transition from radio to TV. It happened and all those disc jockeys were done.
Yeah. Same thing's true now with digital, right? Like, when's the last time you actually tuned into terrestrial radio? It's
Yeah.
really, really hard to justify when you can listen to anything you want, whatever you want. Um, so as we kind of start to wrap up here, I want to ask just a couple key questions. First, if people want to get a hold of you, how can they do that?
So I've got a website, redbeardedmarketing.com. You're not comfortable with reaching out to a website that has a phone number and an email contact and all that. You can shoot me a message at the Facebook page, redbearded.com, or the Instagram. I don't check the Instagram as much, so don't rely on that too hard. But yeah, I've got if you Google red bearded marketing, I come up, or Luke Eccles. There's not a lot of us. There's a couple of us, but we're
Yeah.
out there.
Word to the wise, never create a Facebook group with every other person that shares your name. It's a nightmare because it's really hard to tell someone to shut up because you can't address them by their name.
Yeah, I'm
I
friends with two people named Luke Eccles on Facebook just because we have the same name. And sometimes I'll see their post and I'll get really confused. I'll be like, oh wait, okay, all right. That's different Luke Eccles.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, so, uh, in your sort of journey here in the marketing space, and I think I know the answer based on the conversation we've had so far, but, in your journey in the marketing space, what is the biggest kind of takeaway that you've picked up that you can share with our listeners?
Be prepared and be excited to fail. I think one of the things that we overlook when somebody screws up or fails is like, how do you learn? Usually by failing, usually by screwing up. And that's, I mean, like I said, that's how I learned web design. It was you go in, how do I do this? Google. Okay. Is there a video for it? Watch the video. And then you do it. And sometimes you mess up. Sometimes you've had some bad customer interactions where, maybe you weren't completely wrong, but like, you messed up a little bit, or like there's something new that you didn't know about, and they get pissed that you didn't know that. And it's like again, like I said, there's no open source, streaming saying like, all right, this is what's going on in our industry. This is how you do it. It's like you mess around and find out. And sometimes, like you're going to fail, and sometimes it's going to be really bad. And how you rebound from that and how you learn from that, I think that really pushes right into that topic of how you expand, how you learn, how you grow, is just knowing you're gonna fail. Like, how many times was it Thomas Edison make that light bulb?
Yeah, right. Right.
Well, like he was like, I can tell you 1,000 ways not to make the light bulb. Like, nobody cares about those 1,000 screw ups.
Right.
Nobody's talking about those. They're talking about the one where he figured it out. So just remember, if you're on a journey, you're not gonna bat 1,000 out of 1,000.
Right. No, I get that. That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. And
Yeah,
thanks for coming on the show today.
absolutely. Thank you for having me.